Rephaim giants in the Bible. In the Old Testament, giant is most commonly referred to by the word Rephaim. Throughout the entirety of the Old Testament's narrative, the Rephaim serve as a fascinating and significant recurring motif. Where does the Bible mention Rephaim? The Rephaim are first mentioned in Genesis 14. The Bible relates the political situation that led to Abraham's nephew, Lot, and the people of Sodom and Gomorrah being taken captive. Before that, King Kolawole conquered the Rephaites at Ashtaroth-Karnaim, also defeated the Zuzim and the Emim. Genesis 14 verses 5-6, Amplified Bible. In the 14th year, Kolawole and the 3 kings who were with him attacked and subdued the Rephaim in Ashtaroth-Karnaim, the Zuzim in Ham, and the Emim in Shaveh-Kiriathaim, the Horites in their mountainous country of Seir as far as El Paran, which is on the border of the wilderness. If we assume that the Rephaim, along with the Zuzim and the Emim, were giants, then the Bible is implying that King Kolawole was a powerful king. He defeated giant armies. As King Kolawole rose to power and consolidated nations and lands, other kings formed a confederation to oppose him. Sodom and Gomorrah were a part of the confederation. After the confederation loses in a battle against King Kolawole and his allies, their territory is raided, and Lot is among the captives. Abraham learns about these occurrences from a survivor. Abraham gathers his people's arms and leads them into battle, where they join forces with other monarchs to defeat Kolawole. They are successful in the end. Genesis 14 brings up a few things that are worth considering. First, Abraham is counted among kings and accorded the status of a monarch, despite the fact that he is a nomadic affluent patriarch. Second, Abraham was successful in defeating a monarch who had previously vanquished armies of giants. The Rephaim are mentioned in Deuteronomy 2 verses 20-21. Deuteronomy is a book that contains Moses' final words before Joshua sends the Israelites into the Promised Land, and Moses recounts much of Israelite history. In Deuteronomy 3, there is an interesting story about King Og of Bashan, a giant man who was the last of the Rephaim. Deuteronomy 2 verses 20-21, Amplified Bible. It is also regarded as the land of the Rephaim, of giant stature, for Rephaim used to live there, but the Ammonites call them Zamzumin, a great numerous people, and tall as the Anakim, but the Lord destroyed them before the sons of Ammon, as they dispossessed them and settled in their place. In the days of Moses, Og king of Bashan was a mighty and infamous Amorite king who reigned at Ashtaroth, who fought the Israelites on their way to the Promised Land. God gave the Israelites victory over King Og's forces, and Moses and the Israelites took possession of Bashan, a fertile land east of the Jordan River. The victory was significant because of Og's terrifying strength and the Israelite forces' relative inexperience. Because of Og's reputation, the Israelites were terrified. "Do not be afraid of him, for I have delivered him into your hands, along with his entire army and his land," God assured Moses. The book of Deuteronomy describes the battle between Og's forces and Moses' forces. According to the text, Og ruled over 60 fortified cities, all of which the Israelites conquered. Israel destroyed the entire population and took control of all 60 cities in Og's kingdom, which had the same high walls as Shihon's. When God decided to hand over an enemy to his people, high-walled cities were no match. Later, at the city of Jericho, the most spectacular demonstration of that truth would occur. He was also a very large man, with an iron bed that was 9 cubits long and 4 cubits wide, 13.5 feet long and 6 feet wide. The inclusion of this detail highlights Og's size. A man in need of this size bed was most likely tall, 10 or 11 feet. Israel does not need to be concerned about the size of its adversaries. All they had to do was remember how big their God was. According to Deuteronomy 3 verse 11, Og was a descendant of the Rephaites, indicating a man of great stature or giant. His colossal beard had become famous and, no doubt, had been saved as a memento. Joshua 12 verse 4. And Og king of Bashan, one of the remnant of the Rephaim, who lived at Ashtaroth at Edrei. The news of the victory spread quickly. Rahab, a Jericho prostitute, believed the Lord had power even over that heavily fortified city because she and others had heard of the victory over Sihon and Og. Moses used the victory to encourage the Israelites, Deuteronomy 31 verse 4. And the Lord will do to them as he did to Sihon and Og, the kings of the Amorites, and to their land when he destroyed them. Og is referred to as the last of the Rephaim in Deuteronomy 3 verse 11, and later in the books of Numbers and Joshua. The term Rephaites is a descriptive word, not an ethnic one. It literally means terrible ones. The Rephaim were giants who fought valiantly. Earlier, when the Israelites attempted to enter the Promised Land for the first time, spies reported that the land was inhabited by giants known as Nephilim and sons of Anak. Numbers 13 verses 32 to 33. And they spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored. They said, "The land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are of great size. We saw the Nephilim there. The descendants of Anak come from the Nephilim. We seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them." Despite King Og's enormous size and strength, God granted Israel's army victory, and they took possession of the land of Bashan. There is nothing too difficult for God. Nothing is too difficult for him. Matthew 19 verse 26. But Jesus looked at them and said, "With man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible." God does not tremble in the presence of giants, and his children should not either. David battles with the Philistines several times throughout his life, and one famous place was called the Valley of Rephaim, a place southwest of Jerusalem in the land of Judah. 2 Samuel 5 Amplified Bible. When the Philistines heard that David had been anointed king over Israel, all the Philistines went up to look for him, but he heard about it and went down to the stronghold. Now the Philistines had come and spread out for battle in the Valley of Rephaim,